What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the brother Brendan Olson for a donation to the channel via the Cash App. Much respect to him for once again showing love to the channel. Quickly becoming one of my favorite subscribers. So this is a question that I have, right? Now, a lot of times I have been critical of Steph Curry on this channel, and I know that. I know that I give that perception that I'm a Steph Curry critic. But it's not necessarily that I'm a Steph Curry critic, it's just that I sometimes push back against what I think is Steph Curry hyperbole being pushed and promulgated by the mainstream sports media. Oftentimes, I think that these agendas or the propaganda is being pushed to actually make LeBron look better. But anyway, that's another story, another potential video for some other time. But look, we can't argue that Steph Curry benefited from the presence of Kevin Durant. Absolutely he did. But let's look at the flip side of this. You can make an argument that for those two titles that were, Avenger levels, right, Avenger level squad for the Warriors at least, right? Or at least you could argue that. Two of those championships came with a supporting cast that, well, is more impressive than anything LeBron did. The 2015 title, and especially the 2022 title. Now, in 2022, right, you can make an argument that Steph Curry's best overall teammate during that run, the regular season and playoffs, was Andrew Wiggins. The same Andrew Wiggins that has been struggling to even reach the level he was playing before, which is still considered subpar to a guy that was being compared to Tracy McGrady when he was first drafted a decade ago, right? So he's not even playing at the level that he was playing at before, which is considered subpar to his to what his potential was. Now, I don't know whether it has anything to do with his father, but he just hasn't been the same. But you can make a strong argument that Andrew Wiggins was Steph's best teammate. Klay Thompson is not the same, especially on the defensive end. Not his fault. He's dealing with injuries that will forever affect him, and he will never be the same player. Steph's second best teammate that year was probably, yes, Jordan Poole. The same player that during that playoff championship run, I think averaged 17 points a game, shot 51% from the floor, 39% from three, 91% I think, or 92% from the foul line. The same player that the Warriors organization foolishly traded to the Wizards and kept Draymond Green. And now it looks like they might be phasing Draymond out of the franchise. So you lost Jordan Poole for absolutely nothing. Klay by the way, speaking of Klay Thompson and Draymond, those guys are obviously not the same. And even when they were at their peaks, Klay is not a top 50 player. We can argue that he's top 75, but I can argue some guys who should be ahead of him. I would say Klay is top 100. Draymond is top nothing. I wouldn't even put Draymond top 250. But with this team, Steph was able to win a championship. And unlike other final performances, this time, Steph was able to really put his input on that finals in a consistent fashion. And despite having a somewhat subpar supporting cast, they beat a 2022 Celtic team that was playing defense at an all-time level that we hadn't seen in 20 years. We see what Amir Udoka is doing with the Houston Rockets. Look how he's turned them around. Look how high they're playing, especially on the defensive end. Amir Udoka is a great fucking coach who's not getting credit for it because, of the fact that he likes pussy. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, this country is so racist, man. But anyway, that Celtic team, coached by Amir Udoka, who's an underrated coach. I think he's one of the best coaches, the finest coaches in the NBA. 2 All-NBA caliber players in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart was the reigning Defensive Player of the Year winner. By the way, he was guarding Steph for much of that series. Robert Williams III, Derek White, all defensive caliber players. And Al Horford's playing at a very high level, as well as Grant Williams. Especially Grant Williams being able to guard from 3 to 5, 40% shooting from outside. And they beat that team. As far as competition is concerned, Steph had to beat Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, John Morant Grizzlies, and then Luka and Jalen Brunson before he left, the Mavericks in the conference finals, who themselves in the semifinals beat a Phoenix Suns team that won a record 63 games. That was a competition that the Warriors beat. Whereas LeBron James and many of his finals triumphs, especially in the East, went up against the likes of Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan and Roy Hibbert and Paul George. Some juggernauts, huh? In 2015, Steph's first championship, his best teammate, of course, back then, was Klay Thompson. Now, this, of course, was a Klay Thompson that was getting into his own. I believe that's the year he had that game with 37 points in a quarter against the Kings. His second best teammate was Draymond Green. Now, they were getting toward the peak of their powers then. But although I do believe that these guys are going to get in the Hall of Fame because of who they play with and, recency bias, you can make an argument that neither of them are first ballot. Well, I'll put it like this. No. Let me take that back. You can make an argument that Klay may not be first ballot, although I think he will get in first ballot, but he's probably more of a top 90 to 100 all-time player. You see what I'm saying? In my opinion, Draymond Green is not a Hall of Famer. Should not be in the Hall of Fame. But unfortunately, I think he will get in the Hall of Fame because of his association, his close association with LeBron James, his association with Clutch Sports, and the fact that he will get into broadcasting after his NBA career is over. I just think that the people who are going to be voting are going to put him in. Despite the fact that if you're going to put him in, as I said before, if you're going to put Draymond Green in, you got to put in Michael Cooper then in the Hall of Fame. You just got to. You got to. I'm sorry. If Draymond Green goes to the Hall of Fame, then retroactively, we got to open up the books for a lot of different guys and put them in. If the Hall of Fame is being lowered that much. They also had to overcome a very competitive Western Conference. Remember, it was thought at that time that the Spurs were going to go on a run because Kawhi Leonard was coming to his own to offset the aging process with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker. But the Warriors came out of nowhere and won the championship. And they had to overcome a very competitive conference. As a matter of fact, they beat I'm trying to think, did they beat them that year? I know the Mavericks won 50 games that year, even though they were the 7th seed. So that's how competitive the Western Conference was, how great it was. Whereas in 2015, the Cavaliers swept a Hawks team that won 60 games that we knew were pretenders, coached by Mike Budenholzer. In conclusion, over the past 8 to 9 years, overall, Steph has had less help than LeBron James since he left Miami. Yes, he did have KD. Yes, he did. But outside of that, Steph Curry has proven that he can lead his team to a championship. Before and since, LeBron has never proven, in my opinion, that he really makes players around him better. Steph Curry does. And he has to have superstars, LeBron, to compete. So anyway, that's just my take on this. So what you guys think?